morning and welcome to another edition of Your Life, Your Voice. Welcome to on our long weekend, Easter weekend. Happy Easter to all the Christians and happy holidays to all the non-Christians in our community. So I'd like to welcome Qualia Altopus to as co-host. Hi Qualia, how are you going?
Good, thank you. And enjoying the break and enjoying the fact that we can all be together today.
So yes, so it's wonderful. So our guest speaker today is Heidi Everett, and Heidi is a multimedia artist, a writer, producer, and mental health advocate. Welcome, Heidi.
Julie, hi Galere, hi everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. So before we start, I'll do the acknowledgement of country. Colette, can you make me co-host, please? Okay, so D&D Your Life, Your Voice project acknowledge the traditional owners of the land to which we work and live and recognise their continuing connection to the land, water and community. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. We remember all self-advocates who have worked hard over the years for the rights for themselves and other people with disabilities and human rights for all. Nothing about us without us. So, again, welcome to Heidi. And how about we kick off some questions, Heidi? Is that okay? So, can you tell us a little bit about your background, Heidi?
Thanks, Julie. I will acknowledge that I'm on Wurundjeri country of the Woiwurrung people, and I acknowledge the people who are traditional owners and custodians of the land that I live and work today. I'm from Wales in the UK, so I was born just on the border there and grew up in a very remote village in Wales where there was thousands of sheep and about 20 people. So I came to Australia when I was 9, and it was such a culture shock going from so few people and so few evidence of society, I suppose, to just people everywhere, buildings, concrete, just so that's my background is just coming from very remote country in Wales to Perth, and then travelling on trains and living in immigration refuges for quite a while, and then ending up in Dandenong, Victoria. So quite an immersive childhood, different cultures, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had lots of diversity in your life. So yeah, I think that when you have diversity, I think it makes us more rounded people in general in the community. Um, could you tell us a little bit about what goals have you achieved, and how did you navigate your way around to achieve these goals?
I think goals are a bit like those movable goalposts. You hit one and then there's another and another and another. And I think that's what makes us human, is we're never quite satisfied. Well, a lot of us aren't anyway. So, in that space, navigating from Wales to Australia, my goal was to speak Australian. That was my entire goal in life, was to lose the Welsh English accent and learn to speak Australian, which was very white, I've got to say. But so that once I hit that goal, that I could say grass and not grass, and drop the rolling R and put it as an R, and get rid of the L, put an L there. So those goals were my childhood goals, was to do that. And then once I did that, my next goal was to I guess, fit in, like all teenagers. We want to fit in and play the game and not stand out. So my whole goal as a young adult and teenager was to fit in and not be seen. And that went drastically wrong. So then my goal was to recover from that and heal from that. And that's been my goal for the last 10 years, is to heal from that I don't know what you would call it.
Roller coaster?
What was that?
Roller coaster?
Roller coaster, yeah, crashing roller coaster that came off the rails and ended up in the ghost train and the dodgem cars.
They actually call it like storm and stress, that period in your adolescence. So they call it the storm and stress period.
Storm and stress.
Yeah. Google it, people. It's really good. It's a good theory. Yeah.
And I guess, you know, some teenagers, they get through their storm and stress and the water gets calm and off they swim. But for me, that storm and stress just kept coming. And it didn't stop till I was about 35.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm in lovely calm waters and I can see the horizon and the sun's out and the sky's blue and I'm loving it. But gee, that took a lot of sailing to get there.
But you got there. You got there. That's the main thing, yeah?
Yeah.
So I've actually never heard of storm and stress.
Oh, I haven't either.
I've heard of flight, fright, and freeze. They've added freeze to that, like in like modern psychological like discourse. But this storm and stress, I have never heard of it. I have to Google it, Glenn. You gave me homework.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, a theory out there. I'm just checking out, you know, who exactly said it. But I just remember part of my studies, you know, understanding young people and things like that. It involved a lot of developmental stages for people and going through, you know, issues that we all face and continue. And sometimes you don't go evenly through your developmental process of age. If you don't go through something earlier, then you might go through it later in life. So, you know.
So did you do some sort of psychology?
I actually did psychology, social psych, sociology, all sorts of things to do with young people, everything. Yeah.
When I look at your web presence, Goulet, every time I open up a new page, there's more that reveals about what's on your CV, and you seriously have done a lot, and you know a lot.
Thank you. I things come out of my head, like people ask for something, and then from somewhere I open it up and it just comes out. I say it and I think, okay, I didn't know that, but it just came out. Like, yeah. Does that happen to you?
To
Like,
me?
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, you know, I think some of us, we can just be inserted into any situation. We'll have something to say about it. Yeah.
I don't know whether you're aware, Heidi, but the organisation I'm affiliated with, I work with, it's cold. It's you know, cultures other than culturally and linguistically diverse. So it's really interesting. I really love these conversations because the cold experience is sometimes different. So, and like, you know, gender-based type of issues and, you know, a whole range of things. So when Qualia said it just came out of my head, that's what I used to say when I was a kid. My friends said, where did you get that from? It came from my head. I don't know, it just came out of my head, Mum. You know, they still get really angry at me. But like when I was get a child, I was only telling the truth. It came out of my head. I think that some people are naturally like aligned to like certain things, even though like, you know, they may not have gone through everything, the whole gamut of life. They're sort of like really in tune with life and people and, you know, just, yeah. So so I feel as a person from a core background, even though I'm first generation, I feel like I have to work harder to like, to sort of like you said, Heidi, fit in and to understand culture, understand my culture, understand the dominant culture, and try and like find intersections so I can live a peaceful life. Never really happened up until I lost my parents. But that's fine. So we all have our journey in life.
Yeah, Julie, it sounds like you've been through a lot.
Oh look, like we're talking of me, like I have been, but it's how you sort of like it's how you move on and heal that really defines you as a person. Like when things are lovely, like rosy and stuff, that's good and fine. But what defines a person, I believe, is how you get through challenges and rebound and go on to the next goal or next part of your life.
Yeah, which also brings us to, I've been so curious to know, Heidi, if you could talk a little bit about something very long waited for you. Could you tell us,
Well,
please?
I'm wondering if you're talking about the book.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Blair. So about 8 years ago, I started to document my experiences of living on the streets and how I ended up in a psych ward for the first time as a young person. And I was doing it through illustrations. So I was drawing my memories. So I've always been a drawer. I've always loved drawing horses and dogs, and I just love black ink and fine liner. So I was drawing my memories because I needed to get them out of my head and onto paper. So I had all these little vignettes of psych ward scenes that I'd lived through, and on the streets as well, and little memories of a dog that I had and that was with me at the time. And then I started to write about the pictures, and they were a series of disjointed essays. But then those essays started to come together and they turned into a book. And so this year, my book is actually going to be published and on the shelves all around the world. So I'm really grateful to Ultimo Press, which is a new branch of Hardy Grant Books. And I've got a wonderful editor called Robert Watkins, who is taking on my book and my story and holding it so gently and respectfully. I couldn't have asked for a better publisher. And I'm not supposed to really show anyone, but
This is for us. Yeah.
here's the manuscript. So this is from Ultimo Press copywriting editor, and I have to go through it now, all I don't know how many pages there are, and I have to okay and all the edits that they've put in, and that's going to take about a month. And I've got to do a few more illustrations as well, because there's about 35 of those illustrations in the book as well. So that's where I'm at. Just between us. And so the book's called My Friend Fox. And it is about the immigrant story as well. So when we think about foxes in Australia, they're not all that comfortable here. So I explore that theme as well, about a fox in Australia, and his story kind of mirrors my story as an immigrant and also as a person with schizophrenia in a very sane society. So there's quite a few little narratives going on and entwined with each other. And it's not a heavy book, I've got to say, because I have read quite a few heavy books about mental health realities, and I felt drained and triggered. So this book, I hope, holds the reader in a safe, gentle space. There's space for a little bit of laughter and a little bit of breathing. And so that, because my faith is important to me as well, my Christian faith. So I don't want to hurt people in this story. So it does go into, difficult, challenging situations, but I do it, I hope, with forgiveness in my heart. And that forgiveness isn't saying what they did was right, but it's saying they just did what they knew. So I'm not blaming the person, I'm blaming the situation.
My dad always, Heidi and Julie and our listeners out there and our viewers, Dad always used to talk about, as I was growing up, and then of course when he passed away I understood more and more what he was talking about. But it's about, if someone throws you a knife, catch it and throw them back a rose. And then as you go through life after that, I thought, I want to send myself roses too. So it's it's a philosophy of way of being that you take into your being, into every single action that we do. And I'm interested in how you have developed that with your readership, like what you're doing. You know how you said there's intricacies with the book, like it all comes together. Is it in the narrative? Can you describe a bit of that to us?
Yeah, and Goulet, I love that saying that your dad has gifted you with. I don't know if you can say his name. Are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Joshan.
Beautiful. So Joshan, I actually knew that. I read that about you. So I've worn a rose on my t-shirt in honor of that story.
Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. Thank you.
So thank you. It is true, and there's I can relate literally with maybe where that story resonates as well, where those words I can relate literally, Goulet, and I don't think we need to go into that, but definitely you have to surround yourself with roses in certain situations, and you have to dig deep for those roses sometimes, and sometimes those roses aren't in reach. They have to come from within. So even if you know that sharp edge is coming at you, you can buffer it with internal roses. And so I do relate to that statement on so many levels, Goulet.
Yeah.
And I also now, like, just when I go for a walk nearly every day, and there's a beautiful rose that I love called the Lorraine Lee. And to me, the Lorraine Lee, it's a little rose. It's not much to look at, and it only lasts 3 or 4 days and then it's gone. But the scent of the Lorraine Lee rose, if I see one coming down the street at me, I just start speeding up. And I take it and I smell it and I drink it into the bottom of my stomach, and I can feel it going down, and it's the most beautiful scent. Every time I see a Lorraine Lee rose, I just run for it, because it reminds me of so much, and I can really relate to that. And Goulet, you are being photobombed right now. Who is that?
I didn't quite get that, but yeah, okay.
Look at behind me.
Okay.
Let's see it.
He wanted to make a presence.
Hey, we're online, yeah?
That's cool.
Anything can happen, so.
And that's exactly how I love to run my stories, Goulet. I love that little bit of comedy just happen and just let people laugh and breathe. And, I'm doing a stage play at the moment called Qualia, and I'm working on it. And it's about psych wards, but every 5 seconds there's laughter, because I do stand-up comedy as well. So I bring in elements of just joyful, abandoned laughter about the most difficult things, because to me, you either laugh or you cry. And I choose laughter. I choose joy, because I have cried too much in my life.
Yeah.
And I deserve joy.
Mm.
And I deserve expressing that joy. And the psych system has just given me so much pain and so much sadness. Laughter is my reclamation statement.
Is that how you became like an advocate and those kind of things, from your experiences and rising above it? And could you tell us how that happened for you.
Oh, I love that term, rising above it. That's beautiful. Yeah, so I cried for about the 35 years of my life. I cried. There was no joy, no laughter, no, you know, my family wasn't a happy, laughy kind of family, very serious. So that rising above it, it does feel like I've come up from the Titanic. I've surfaced from the Titanic. That's how deep down I was and how crushed I was as well. And I feel like a survivor of the Titanic. And I acknowledge, you know, the trauma involved for families. So I'm not just saying that lightly without acknowledgement. Oh, yeah, it does feel like I just keep seeing the surface of the ocean and that the sun out and the blue sky. And I'm just enjoying drifting now. And I don't know if either of you have been to the Great Barrier Reef, swam the reef. You swim around looking at the fish and you make an effort and everything, but then eventually after an hour, you just decide just to float and you kind of go like this.
Yeah.
And the fish are underneath you doing the same thing. And it's just an incredible feeling. And that's how I feel I am now with life. I just feel like I'm just sitting there, just looking into things and just drifting and enjoying that. But gee, it was a hard battle to get there.
Yeah.
And I that joy, that laughter came with music for me. So when I started to write music and compose music, and I taught myself how to play classical guitar for a few years, and I think classical guitar really hit something in my heart, because when you play classical guitar and when you play guitar, it's actually touching your heart, the back of the guitar, and you can feel it resonating. And I think that woke me up.
Yeah.
That beautiful on my heart, it woke me up. It stirred something. And ever since that classical music and the guitar music that touched my heart, and it was the first thing that touched my heart and made my heart feel was the guitar. It just sparked something and I just yearned for it. And then I got a dog, and the dog taught me unconditional love. And even if that dog rolled in horse poo, you know, fresh horse poo, and then got in the car and shook it off, and horse poo was flying everywhere all over the interior of my car, that's unconditional love.
Yeah, it reminds me of the a saying from, I don't know whether it was a Forrest Gump saying, shit happens.
Yeah, literally.
So yeah. And that is unconditional love, isn't it?
Yes. And my dog Tigger, this is Tigger here. Anyone who knows me, this dog taught me love. My parents loved me. I will just put that out there. But to actually feel it and express it without embarrassment, that comes down to my dog Tigger. And just, you know, forgiveness. Oh, you rolled in horse poo and you've put it all over the interior of my car and I have to clean it off. And I'll do it. But, you know, later that night, we're back to normal again, and I love you and you love me, and it's just beautiful.
You've gone through almost the ladder of all the senses, you know, smelling of that rose, the feeling of crying, that's the emotional side, then you got the visuals, then you got the music. It's like you've been able to integrate all these beautiful aspects of your life to one thing to now.
Thank you, Qualia. That's a powerful observation. It is. It's exploring every sense, and never have done that as a child, because I actually was a very isolated and shut down child. But you know, I got away with it because there were no humans around me, so I was just doing my thing. And it wasn't until I got into the space where there's other people that problems happened. So I never got to explore a lot of things because I was dealing with myself in people. It took up 100% of my time is how do I stand next to someone? How do I look at someone and talk to someone? How do I hear another voice? Where does that go in your head when you're listening to someone talking? Where does that go? So I never had any of that for the first 9 years of my life. I lived in virtual silence and very, very just on my own and in my own world. And I was in Wales in the 1970s. Parents would just open the doors and kids would just go, until sunset. And I was doing that from 5-6 years of age, just off on my own all day long in nature and with my own little world voice talking in my head. So yeah, the whole thing about hearing and taste and feeling was very, very new to me when I came to Australia. And it was hard work.
And is that one of the things that made you decide you wanted to be an advocate?
Yeah, I was Mum, I put that down to my mum actually. So my mum has very strong opinions about things. So when I came to Australia, I was in the anti-abortion march at 10 years of age, without understanding a single word of what they were talking about at 10 years of age. How do you understand women's rights? And we did a lot of collecting for Oxfam and different charity, Red Cross. So we went around doing a lot of, collecting money. So there was good and not so good. So that was instilled in me to do that. And, Mum was always trying to help less fortunate people, even though we had nothing ourselves. We were homeless. Mum was always trying to do things like that in her own way. So that was just hardwired into me, I think. So that's just natural to me to try practical ways to improve places for people. And yeah, it's difficult to find out what structure that is, but it's definitely based in Mum's extremely strong charity, I guess.
Yeah.
There's lots of research that says that the ones that have least are more likely to give the most. And there's a lovely verse in the Bible where the widow gave a few cents, and the actual rich guy just gave, just what he wanted to give.
Julie, I always think of that. I always think of that parable always. And I used to think it was literal, like I had to give my last dollar to the collection plate at Mass. And then I was like, no, I need that dollar for my food. How am I supposed to live? Then I have to ask the salvos to give me money. So, and then I realized it's not about money. It's about the gifts you give in other ways. So helping someone, asking if they want help to do something, and giving yourself. It's yourself, it's not.
Yeah, funny you should say that, Heidi, because I come from a wealthy family, and it never felt right to me. And I had to learn exactly what you were saying, because I had to learn that it's okay to look after yourself. I would give my last dollar to someone if they needed it. And sometimes they didn't need it and I was asked, and I would still give it. So I had to learn that it's okay to look after yourself. So it was a really interesting lesson that I had to learn. So, and this might sound a bit strange from someone that comes from a wealthy background, but I was actually disadvantaged because I had that attitude. And I was disadvantaged from every level of society, including family. So, yeah, it's like, it's really, those know my family would think what, but that's actually an interesting aspect of my life. That, I gave everything I could. But then I realised, like you said, it's not necessarily that you have to give every dollar. So nowadays I still give financially to people and causes, but I give my time. I listen to people. I offer empathy and compassion and a shoulder, all those skills that people need, people that don't have anyone to support them, or lots of widows. I'm surrounded with lots of widows in my life, and they come and go. Like at different times, different people have asked me to be there for them. I have been there for them, but then it comes a time where I have to look after myself. It's okay to look after yourself.
So that brings me to think that, we talk a lot about advocacy and helping other people, but I'm also hearing that the both of you and a bit about myself is that we've got to advocate for ourselves as well as other people.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Heidi?
Well, I'm just sitting here surrounded. I've got surround sound from two amazing humans. So Julie and Qualia, I can see, we're all watching you both here today on a public holiday doing this. So I can, your evidence in the action. But I think, Qualia, you're incredibly right again that, that advocacy has to come from self first. So, and who gave you the voice first to believe in your voice and even find your voice for the first time? So there was many years where I couldn't speak to people. I lost I didn't even have it.
Yeah.
To do what I'm doing now has taken decades of practice and just consistently doing the same thing. But that first person, I always remember that first person who gave me the skills and the tools and the knowledge to find my voice in the first place and believe that what I was feeling was trustworthy. So, when we're suffering and when we're in difficult situations, we often don't trust our opinion of that, because we're told the opinion we're being given is the right one, but the little voice inside is saying this isn't right. And we squash it down and we don't trust it. But then when someone gives you the tools and the confidence and the self-belief to listen to that voice and say, actually, that voice is loud, it needs to come out and it needs to be plastered on the walls and in the trees. Yeah. And the birds need to sing it, and it has every right to be out there, then I gift that to other people. So that advocacy has come from somebody else for me, but that first voice is mine, and then I want to give that to other people and make sure that other people I see who were like me trust their voice and learn how to paint it and stand up for their rights and believe in it too.
You've got a project where, is it Christmas cards that are given to people at psych wards?
Yeah, so it's that the December one, the Christmas ones actually comes from a group, two sisters actually, who started Mad Women in the Attic in the US.
Yeah.
And one sister was in the psych ward over Christmas, and the other lady decided to give her and all her colleagues in the psych ward a Christmas card. And so then Indigo Daya in Australia brought it to Melbourne a couple of years ago. And the funny thing was, a few years before this, I tried to create some postcards from my local community to go into that the psych ward in my area. And I had the entire council, I had the ranger, I had the men's shed, I had everyone in the local community going, let's do this, let's create some beautiful cards of love to go into this ward. And I went up to the psych unit near me and I spoke to the NUM, the nurse unit management, and I told her about the project, and she said, no, we don't want to give people false hope. And I was like, you can't say, if there's no hope, how can it be false? Like, yeah. It's a complete paradox. So when Indigo did this card, I said, you know, can we drown this psych ward in Christmas cards? So they did. So they took up boxes and boxes of Christmas cards that people had written and took them up there and just gave them to them and said, deal with it. And it was the most joyous thing. And so last year I did it with the council again. I said, can we do that project again with your backing? And so this time, different unit manager, different staff. It was fantastic. They were on board. I got the local library involved. You know, we got something like 150 Christmas cards from the local community to go into that ward. And they went everywhere. They didn't just go into the ward. They went into the veterans, what's it called? The
repatriation hospital.
Repatriation ward. It went into the mothers, you know, and babies ward. It went into the adolescent. It went into the elder persons unit. It went into SECU. They went everywhere. So it was a really lovely, lovely turnabout of events in the end. But I got to acknowledge it's come from Jess and Melissa in the US and Indigo in Melbourne who triggered that project.
Yeah, because you've got the Qualia, you've got
I love Qualia.
Yeah, tell us about Qualia and then about Skitzy as well, Skitzy Inc. and yeah.
So Qualia, I got into theatre. I used to love. You know, I wanted to have a go, but I was far too shy to be on stage. Oh, my goodness. And then I got into theatre and perform. Because I'm a musician, I do stand-up comedy and all these other performing arts. And I was just more and more inclined to create spaces and stages for people to tell their story about public psych wards. And I was studying Auslan, and my teacher was deaf. And she happened to mention that she'd been in a psych ward, and she was deaf, and there was no Auslan interpreters. And I just went, oh my gosh, I have never considered what it would be like to be in a psych ward and be deaf. How do you even go there? So Qualia was very much in the interest of creating theatre for people with unknown stories. So I've done a lot of mental health advocacy at conferences and things, and everyone on stage looks like me. All able-bodied, all pretty much white, middle-aged women, mostly, and good on us, but there's no people in wheelchairs, there's no diverse bodies, there's no deaf people, there's hardly any cold people, you know, at these big mental health conferences. And so I was just like, I need to give my stage, my privilege to other people to tell their story. So the first rendition of Qualia was this story of the deaf person and how they needed interpreters. And a lovely lady called Jess in a wheelchair who was in a psych ward in a wheelchair. And then another fella, Xavier, who tells his story about not even being seen, completely invisible. So that was the first rendition of Qualia. And then this second rendition is about my story and going into the psych system off the streets. And it's got music and it's got a heap of comedy. And then I want the next rendition, I'm already thinking about getting people who are musicians to tell how music and the psych system and mental health come together. So it's going to keep growing and keep moving and keep including different people and different voices and stories. And hopefully that eventually the mental health system VIPs will realise actually psych wards are the most disabling places in Western society at the moment. The most ableist, actually. They're not the most disabling, they're the most ableist. So that's where Qualia is. And then I founded an organisation called Skitzy Inc. many years ago, and it started off as a music performance event for World Schizophrenia Day. We had live music jams from musicians in Ireland, Wales, Canada, the US, New Zealand, all around the place. And this is before Zoom. And I got all the musicians playing together through various means. And this is before Zoom, so kind of before its time. And now Skitzy Inc. does a heap of things all year long. So we do a film festival for World Schizophrenia Day. We do art exhibitions. We do workshops, creative workshops. We've just got ourselves an art studio. We do an outdoors-based art retreat. We do mentoring. We do governance programs. We do everything that empowers people to be creatives and advocates.
Okay, I want to come. Where do we go? Tell us the information.
Well, we just go www.skitzy, SCHIZY, only one Z, so SCHIZY.org. That has all the information and a contact page. And Qualia, I believe your partner Adam is in the studio. Have they told you?
Yes.
Cross-referencing there. So this is the first step to a Skitzy Inc. full-time studio. So we've got a space in Banyule at Ivanhoe Library. If anyone wants to drop in and say good day during the week, we're there every day. Different artists. There's something like 12 artists using the space. So it's potluck who you get when you go. And then this is the first step. So we'll use this success to prove that Skitzy Inc. can run and manage and put on an art studio. So I'm currently doing the groundwork to try and source a venue. So if anyone knows a space, I've put my name down for Collingwood Yards, and I think we're in there next year maybe. So here's hoping.
Yes.
Yeah, but apart from that, Skitzy Inc. finds any space available, and we run stuff in any space. So we do it in libraries, we do it in community houses, we do it in parks, we do it in, we just find lots and lots of wonderful, arts venues, and we book them and do stuff there. The one thing we don't do is mental health advocacy. We are not aligned with any mental health services. They don't need us, and we don't need them. So yeah, Skitzy Inc. is an arts organisation.
Have you heard of the Hunt Club? That's one in Brimbank.
No, tell me.
It's an art-based community space. So it's been around the Brimbank for donkeys years now. The Hunt Club in Brimbank.
How do you spell that?
I think it's Hunts, HUNTS, Hunt Club in Brimbank.
Fantastic, thank you. I'll check them out.
Yeah. So wow, Heidi. So much to unpack in this interview. Yeah. So we still have a bit of time. Qualia, what else do you think? Because Heidi, what else do you think we can ask?
Well, I think, Heidi lives her example. She lives by what she says. So I guess that's pretty hard to find someone that does as they say. You know how there's people that say, don't do as I do, but do as I say. So I guess, looking at that kind of way I've known Heidi, I'm thinking, because this program is looking at, people with disabilities from a non-English speaking background, or you can look at it as a people from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. How would we be able to help people with a disability to come out of their home, go to places? Like, what advice would you give, Heidi, is what I'm thinking.
I think, I did see this question in your email, and I can't speak too much about the Welsh experience because I disowned it the moment I stepped foot on Australia, and so did my family in a way. So I feel sad about that, but then I also understand why, because we're part of the problem in Australia. So Julie, you were saying before, you have hard work dealing with different brains almost in your head, and I feel the same. It's like I've got a lot of thinking to do, but I feel as an ally to the deaf community. I studied Auslan for a number of years with deaf teachers, and I see their struggle and I acknowledge it. And gosh, Australia needs to we need to teach Auslan in schools, like just basic Auslan, because to me it's Australia's second language, and we just don't even acknowledge it. That we need to teach Auslan. Deaf people need to teach it, and that includes the culture as well and the identity. And also, as a visitor to this country, I can't believe how much we completely carpet over the Indigenous language and names for this country. I cannot believe it. It makes me hurt. Like I know I can't take on the blame for this, but as a sensible adult, if I go to somewhere like Papua New Guinea or Indonesia, I don't see a white country. I see their country, and I see their language and their names for places, and I see, respect of their people. But when I came to Australia, I had to learn language that had nothing to do with Aboriginality. And I just find that odd.
Well, they were invaded and genocide happened.
Yeah, so I cannot take on the blame for that, and I did that for many years and really struggled with that. But I definitely acknowledge the pain that this country has felt as a people, and we as immigrants need to assist that and be allies to encourage that this country starts using proper names and language to describe this country, and really see this country for the people that are rightfully here. I just cannot believe it. Like, if I go back to Wales, every signpost is in Welsh, and some signposts go for a mile because the words are so long. But there's English as well, but then there's this really proud Welsh culture, and if you can't speak Welsh and you're in Wales, then go back over the border, but then we come to Australia and we all have to speak English and be very Western. So that would be what I would say as a person, as a visitor to this country, is let's embrace this country as it should be. And I don't know, it's very political and very controversial, and I know what I'm saying might anger some people as well, but that's just how I feel coming to this country, not born here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that I'm an ally more than a spokesperson.
Yeah, because we can't speak on other people's behalf.
No,
it's not our place to do that.
Yeah, so all I can say is how I feel.
Yeah.
And I feel strongly about other people suffering in the psych system as well, and just how is it possible that we can say let's create accessible society, but the society itself, we still encourage drinking and violence, and we still have TV programs full of murder shows and violence against women as entertainment, you know, and then we're sending people off to the psych ward for the real stuff that's happening to people, yet we have entertainment. And, you know, it's to me, it's accessibility for people with psych distress.
Yeah,
Dealing with that.
I'm actually working on a project at the moment. I can't say what it is because I'm not allowed at this stage. But the whole idea of the project is to not integrate people, but to have universal access.
Yeah.
And it's not looking at disability separate to ability, but it's creating an environment where hopefully one day there won't be a word for disability. Because it'll be like normal for anyone to be wherever they are, whether it's community access, whether it's home in their homes. So I'm really excited about this project, which I can't talk about much at the moment.
It sounds great, Julie. It sounds really like what I'd be interested in.
We're still on probation at the moment. So hopefully in the future I can talk about it a bit more. So it's all happening. And look, these things take time. You know, we've been in this country for 200 years, and so it's taken a long time to get to the point where we're at. So with these things that we do in the community sector, it's a starting point, So who knows? With the changes can happen very quickly. Change can happen very slowly. So it's just building all these heavy building blocks to get to that a society which everyone is included.
Yeah, inclusion, advocacy, togetherness, fight for our rights. That's all those things are really important. And I wouldn't be able to talk on behalf of an Indigenous person because I don't belong there, but I do acknowledge how important life has been and is. Like we need to do something, and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm sure we can invite someone to this program to talk about it.
I was thinking about that word disability, and Caroline Bowditch, wonderful Caroline, says, why do the lower, like the punching up people, have to be described as adjectives? Disabled, advocates, advocacy, fighting for rights. Why are we under adjectives while the people who are doing the oppressing don't have any adjectives except, I think abled and privileged? And so my hope for the future is that the word disability and disabled kind of is outplaced by abled and ableist thinking, and let's get them to do more of the heavy lifting and let's put more words to describe this group and take the focus off this group. And so, Julie, what you're saying about universal design does that beautifully, is that instead of fighting for ramps instead of stairs, let this group, let's do ramps instead of stairs. So if people want to use stairs, there's an option for people to use stairs. If people are really, really attached to using stairs and stepping up and down stairs, we'll put that as an option for people. But for everyone else, we'll have ramps, inclined surfaces. And not even considered like that's just for disabled people, that it kind of feels like that this group, this disabled, disadvantaged group, is doing all the advocacy and heavy lifting and the right fighting and, asking this group to do stuff. And it's about time that the adjectives of this group were in focus.
And that brings us to thinking of the people who are lovely and fund this program. We need to make an acknowledgement for the program. Julie, you ready to do the acknowledgement?
Yeah, I'll just add one more point.
Yeah.
There is a shift, Heidi, to universal access. So, but because of some buildings are so old and stuff, that they come under different building codes. But there is actually a push now for universal access. For what I've seen by research, that I have to do for different things. So that's a good thing. But how do we actually make all these old buildings universal access?
Yeah, let's take out the word retrofit and future provide. They say let's retrofit disability access into this building. No, let's future provide.
And it all starts with language, for what I've seen in our society. Yeah. Heidi, thank you for your time. We've had a great conversation. I hope all those in YouTube land have enjoyed our conversation, and you can catch us on demand. So you can hang around, Heidi. You just have to do acknowledgements for the funding body. You can hang around if you wish.
Yes, please. Just a few seconds. That book was called, Heidi?
My Friend Fox.
Yes. And it'll come out soon, yeah?
In September, in every bookshop, on every book platform, audio books, Kindle, anywhere around the world. Even Elon Musk up in his spaceship can access it.
Yeah. I'm definitely a purchaser, so thank you for that. So yeah, I'll just do the acknowledgements of country. I'll just do the funding body. So Your Life, Your Voice, I'd like to acknowledge the MRC Northwest Management for their support they give to the D&D Your Life, Your Voice project. This YouTube channel is funded by the Victorian DHHS and the Moreland City Council. And D&D would like to thank them for providing funding to this quite progressive thinking out of the box project, especially these times living through a pandemic. COVID-19 has been difficult for people with disabilities being in isolation, and this project is for them too. So in the next session, we'll be providing some support on COVID-19 and any lockdown issues, which will be hopefully a thing of the past. So we'd like to thank our guest speaker for today. This project would like to your ideas and topics on the guest speakers you'd like to invite on Your Life, Your Voice to explore. Please feel free to email us on dndyourlifeyourvoice@gmail.com.
Leave us a message too.
Yes, please. Everett, we're on live chat. We haven't received any messages on live chat, but that would be really exciting if we get messages on live chat. So,
we would like to thank the MRC Northwest Management for their support they give to the D&D Your Life, Your Voice project. This YouTube channel is funded by the Victorian DHHS and Moreland City Council. D&D would like to thank them for providing funding to this progressive thinking out of the box project, especially in these times living through the pandemic. COVID-19 has been difficult for people with disabilities being in isolation. This channel is for them too. And in the next sessions, we will be providing information and support on COVID-19 and lockdown. We would like to thank our guest speaker, Samson, today. And and guest speakers, if you would like to send us some information about what you'd like, questions or guests that you'd like to hear or see, please drop us an email on what you can see on the screen, which is dndyourlifeyourvoice@gmail.com.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.